Hello, everybody. Welcome to Common Censored. I'm joined today by Eleanor Goldfield.
You forgot my name, didn't you?
No, I was giving it was a drum roll type thing.
Line?
There was no line. It was a drum roll type thing. It was by Eleanor Goldfield.
That's okay if you forget.
Are you going to say hello or what?
I waved.
You waved for a podcast. For those listening at home, she waved. I'll narrate every visual thing. Eleanor's going to be miming her parts today. So anyway, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us. Please take a second to hit the thumbs up and the shares and all that good stuff. And yeah, let's get into it. We're going to get into, and Eleanor's already yawning. We're really diving in. We're coming in hot.
Did you know that
we're coming in not is what just happened. What just happened here?
Yawning doesn't necessarily mean that you're tired. It just means that your brain needs more oxygen.
I could have told you that.
My brain needs more oxygen. It doesn't necessarily mean that I'm tired.
All right, we got a Chinese fan is asking, did I make an account on Bilibili? Yes, I did. For those Americans listening, Bilibili is a Chinese social media, kind of like YouTube or something. But yes, I do have an account over there. So for those of you who are Chinese, please check out my Bilibili. And anyway, where are you headed?
For some
Eleanor
reason,
has now left. She's yawned and left.
No, I put my water like directly behind me so that I can't actually reach it without looking like I'm doing some weird yoga move. I apologize.
Thank you, Mahmood. Just said Lee for the Pulitzer and Eleanor for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
That's very sweet of you.
All right, so let's get into it. We got several stories today. Thanks for joining us. Like I said, please take a second to share this. Let folks know. And Moment of Clarity, by the way, folks, is now Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, noon Eastern, and then Common Censored Saturday, noon Eastern. So you can put it on your calendars. You can lock it in. That's what I like to see happen. I like to see it locked in. Locked in. If I say it one more time, it'll happen, right?
It's going to make me feel uncomfortable if you say it one more time.
Okay, I'll stop saying it then. But we're going to start off with the news about, and by the way, for those wondering, why aren't they covering Assange? I did I think it was 30-minute tirade on the fact that the extradition for Assange has now been signed and they will appeal it. But if you want to see that, that is over at leecamp.net. It's one of the top videos, or leecamp.locals.com. They both go to the same place. So if you're wondering why we're not tearing that apart, that's the reason. Okay, so here is, I want to start off with the news on Ghislaine Maxwell or Ghislaine or Ghislaine or Ghislaine, or I've seen 37 different news reports on this, and they all pronounce it differently. Like, I
think I want to pronounce it incorrectly just because she doesn't deserve to have her name pronounced correctly. So I'm going to say Ghislaine.
All right, from here on out, she's Laney. That's what I'm doing. I'm going Laney. Because it's not fair. You can't have a fucked up name like that and then just everyone pronounces it differently.
You know what? I hope that wherever she is, she hears people mispronouncing it constantly and it really bothers her. That's the least you can hope for in a situation like this. For a
sex trafficker, I think that's fine. So she is the co-conspirator, one of them, of Jeffrey Epstein, one of the top co-conspirators. And I wanted to cover this because of what a mockery this is of the U.S. justice system, quote unquote, justice system, which, as I've said for a while now, it's not a criminal justice system. It's a criminal justice system. So
I like that one.
You like that one? Cool. I have at least one endorsement on that. So lawyers of Laney Maxwell have asked a judge to sentence her to a significantly lower sentence than recommended by the government, which is recommending 20 years, saying her difficult childhood made her vulnerable to Jeffrey Epstein and that she shouldn't face a harsh sentence because of his actions. Now, I just want to take a moment to discuss this because she won't be sentenced for another 10 days, but just this portion of it is so infuriating. The idea that a fucking sex trafficker should get off easy because she had an enormously wealthy father, wealthy childhood. She was living on like yacht to yacht. And, you know, that was rough on her. She had to take a dinghy to school from the yacht. And that's tough. That's a tough life, right?
Well, especially when the motor breaks and then you have to row. I mean, come on, that's
true.
ridiculous.
It's true. I'm sure that must have happened.
But this is not. There is actually a precedent for this. I don't remember exactly when this was. I can look it up on the interwebs real quick. But it was known as affluenza, which basically refers to the idea that somebody is so affluent that they don't know right from wrong. They don't have a moral compass. It's broken because they were raised too rich. And basically that means that they shouldn't have a harsh sentence because it's really not their fault. They didn't know what they were doing when they raped that person, or when they, in this case, it was a DUI case. There's there are apparently several cases of this, but
the one where it was termed was that kid. I think he was 16 or 17,
Ethan Couch.
And they said he shouldn't be accountable for killing someone, right? With a DUI.
A DUI which caused a fatal car accident that killed 4 people and severely wounded another. This was back in 2013, and he shouldn't be held responsible because look, he was really rich, and he thought that that's what you do is you get into a car, or your Porsche or your Lamborghini when you're shithoused, and you just happen to kill. Like, he didn't know that was wrong.
Yeah, you can't. When you're that rich, you don't understand that people die and that your butler can't revive them. Like, there'll be someone there to fix it up if I kill a dude, right?
So basically, there is a precedence for this kind of bullshit, and of course, it's never the opposite, right? It's never that someone was raised incredibly poor, that they had no job opportunities. Right. They weren't able to go to school. It's never the opposite, right? It's only that, they were really rich, and so that's a bummer, and we should feel sorry for them.
Right. And this is really why I wanted to get into the story, not because Jeffrey Epstein's story needs more coverage, but and everyone knows, that it reveals the ruling elite. They were on his flights. They were involved in this sex trafficking. All these people, Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, Prince, one of the princes, Andrew. Albert. Oh. Prince Albert. Isn't that a piercing of a dick or something?
It is. You know what? Fuck them all. Right?
Prince Albert and Prince Andrew. They can all go fuck themselves. So, with their pierced dicks, every last one of them. So, but no, this is ruling elite, sex trafficking. And then she very well may get off easy because she was rich and had a tough father and a tough childhood. And this is never done. You just said this, I know, but I have to reiterate it. Never done with all of the other crimes. The U.S. has the largest prison state in the fucking world that has ever existed. Even in the most draconian, even the Spanish Inquisition, they didn't have the same number of people locked up as we do now. We have the largest prison state the world has ever seen, the universe has ever seen, I think, because I don't believe there's other life out there right now. So maybe the universe, at least the galaxy. This is at least the largest prison system the galaxy's ever seen. And yet, for all other cases, they don't go, the person had a tough childhood. He grew up poor. He was forced into selling drugs, which honestly would be far more legit than this garbage, than what they're throwing around for this rich ruling elite oligarch was at Chelsea Clinton's wedding. I mean, this is the level of oligarch we're talking about.
Right. And I was just looking up some numbers on this, and, it's literally illegal to be poor and to be homeless in the United States. So, for instance, homelessness makes an individual 11 times more likely to be incarcerated, and being incarcerated makes a person 10 times more likely to be homeless. Gosh, I wonder if this is a self-fulfilling prophecy. More than a fourth of all homeless individuals reported being arrested for activities related to homelessness. And with more than 500,000 people estimated to be homeless in the U.S., that proportion amounts to 143,000 being arrested for not having a home. And this is just homelessness. Now, they also give examples of...
And no one goes in front of the judge and says, these people had it tough. These people had a tough go of it.
And people in jail for the inability to pay fines, which we are supposedly not supposed to have... That sentence didn't know what I wanted to be. Let me start that over. are apparently not supposed to have a debtor's prison in the US, right? You're not supposed to go to jail just because you can't pay to get out of jail. And
That's one of those things where when you bring it up, people go, that was back in barbaric times
Right.
where we had debtor's prison, where you go to prison just for owing money. Can you believe we used to live like that? And then now.
And yet the inability to pay fines is a huge reason that people end up behind bars. For instance, in 2010, 10 million people across the US owed a collective $50 billion in fees, fines, and charges to the criminal justice system, which basically means that they are being fined for being poor and not being able to, because obviously if you're a rich person, you don't get to this point. You don't get to this point where you have to pay like the excess of a parking ticket or some shit like that. So these are ridiculous fines that are placed on poor people, and they end up in jail because they can't pay them. So people are literally put in jail because they're poor.
We're also one of 2 countries that has cash bail,
Right?
basically punishing poor people for not being able to pay their way out of being held in prison.
Mm-hmm. So, and they also, point out the majority of people in prison are below the poverty level, which they keep moving that fucking line. But regardless of where it is, the majority of people are poor.
The estimates are that 50% of those that cycle in and out of jail in New York City that have been in multiple times are homeless or have been homeless. 50%. So basically, New York City just runs around, and this is the same in a lot of big cities. New York City just runs around arresting poor and homeless people for being poor and homeless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
they don't have high-powered lawyers going, hey, they had a tough childhood.
And then, of course, there's shit that people end up in jail for that is that oftentimes goes hand in hand with poverty. For instance, substance abuse. In 2017, it was estimated that 19.7 million Americans battled a substance abuse disorder, which I think is probably a low estimate. Particularly after or during the pandemic, a lot of people battled even more with substance abuse issues. And this is something that can land you in prison. And then, of course, you can't pay to get out of prison. So it's like, again, this self-fulfilling prophecy, but people are literally going to prison as well because of a health issue, because substance abuse should be a fucking health issue, not a criminal one. And we could talk about this all fucking day, but basically the people like Lainey over here always get the velvet glove treatment. The silk glove. What is the saying? Velvet.
I think you had it right. I think velvet glove.
Either way, a nice fucking glove.
I think they had the latex glove treatment.
And everybody else, that doesn't have access to these lawyers gets a fucking cattle prod. That wasn't a direct analogy, by the way. A glove and a.
I don't know. Some of the gloves are in people, the cattle prods are in people. I don't know what's going on, but then, yeah, and just to finish up on this story, the article also says like that her lawyer said multiple times that she can't be. Don't punish her for what Jeffrey Epstein did, and it's like, no, they're not. They're punishing her for being a fucking sex trafficker,
right? Because
she was part of it. She was
an adult that brought him fucking children to sex traffic.
And some of the victims said the only reason they were like, hey, I'll go hang out with some weird lone man was because there was a woman there standing there saying, yeah, it's fine. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with this. Woman with a British accent. That always helps because Americans we're suckers for that British accent.
Yeah, see, that would have freaked me out more, though. I would have been like, no.
So anyway, Lainey will be sentenced soon, and watch it be a low sentence. And also, by the way, let's just throw in there, for some odd reason, the FBI has raided Epstein's estate, gotten all his files, gotten all his hard drives, gotten all his information, all his data, interviewed Ghislaine Maxwell endlessly, interviewed other people, and they have yet to bring charges against a single other man that was involved in this shit.
And they're also not releasing any of that information.
Yeah.
which can you imagine that if there was like, somebody's the little black book of a a terrorist organization, that shit would be on CNN. Shit would be plastered everywhere. And yet, because it's probably like all of the fucking, the ruling class, they're like, we're just, we're just going to put this in a drawer somewhere. And we're just not going to worry about it.
We're not, it's a pity what happened to Jeffrey. It's just, I wish he had not hung himself with that paper pajamas when all the cameras turned off and the guards fell asleep. But I think if we get Maxwell in prison, that's really enough. How long? It's doing a service to the victims to just be done with this. They don't want to have it all dragged up again to prosecute the people who did the fucking shit. Anyway, let's move on to another story. Another lighthearted story. This one is about, by the way, folks, in another 15 minutes or so, we will be finishing up the rest of the hour at rumble.com/Lee Camp. I know many of you are joining us on Facebook, on YouTube, everywhere, and it's free to go. Rumble.com/Lee Camp. I'll talk more about it in a few minutes, but that is where the entire stream is free, and you can subscribe over there for free and comment over there, etc. All right, let's keep going here, though. The EPA has come out with a new ruling on forever chemicals. Forever chemicals. Does that sound a bit dire? But they came out with a new ruling about these toxic chemicals and put the limit at near zero.
Which means zero.
Essentially zero, meaning if you have like a piece per trillion of these chemicals, PFAs, in your water or your air or your whatnots, then it's bad. It's bad for you. Could cause cancer, etc. So they moved it down to zero after having said that a little bit was okay. And to me, this is just like, is this not the quintessential example of what our government or any government is supposed to do? Give you clean fucking water? Is that not like ground level just ability of a society? Clean water, clean air. You're not going to die from having a sip of water or putting some makeup on it. It just seems like fucking base level. And to me, this type of shit is like the proof that this empire is in its final days. This is...
Well, and I haven't read this article, so you can tell me if I'm wrong here, but I find it interesting that they say EPA warns of, and it's like, okay, but what are you going to do about it? Like, okay, now you're saying...
I'll tell you what they're going to do about it. Right here, I put the quote. EPA on Wednesday issued non-binding health advisories. So there you go. That's what they're doing. Non-binding. They're just telling everybody, hey, you're fucked.
That's kind of like when the UN says that the US should stop being a piece of shit. And it's like, okay, cool, thanks. I'll keep that in mind. Or, Israel should stop being an apartheid state. Israel's like, cool, thank you. Keep that in mind. This is bullshit. It's like, okay, you're going to warn us of these forever chemicals, but you're going to do fuck all. Like, what are we supposed to do as people? We're supposed to clean an entire federal water system? Like, fuck you. This is you. Like, literally, you exist for this purpose. The Clean Water Act. And yet you're like, well, this is all giving you cancer and it's going to mean that you're going to die and your kids aren't going to be able to spell. But, with that, just want to let you know, we're out.
I know. I just want to let you know, folks, small tip. Thanks for showing up today. We really appreciate it. Small tip we'd like to hear at the Environmental Protection Agency put forward here for you. Don't drink water. Don't drink water. And you should probably stop breathing the air.
Yeah.
You can breathe other things, but I wouldn't like air. I'd move past that if you could. The latest research suggests that the substances, a group of chemicals called PFAs, are even more dangerous to human health than previously thought.
Which is what they always do, by the way. It was the same thing with lead. It was like, no, lead's fine.
Oh my
lead
God.
is great.
Everything.
You eat all of the lead paint chips. And then they're like,
it makes your kids strong if you feed them lead paint.
And then they're like, actually, that's really just, that's not, no, none of it's good. It's all good. You're all going to die very early now because of the lead. That's our bad.
And yeah, it's same with everything. Same with Roundup herbicide from Monsanto. Same with those fucking the TSA scanners. They're good for you. They're good. It's good to get a little radioactivity in you. Just give it a little taste. But here's the list of things. And by the way, there was a CNN article I almost used instead of this, and then but it did not have any of this information because CNN's still trying to do the bidding of corporate America.
And it's not like Smithsonian is that much of a radical outlet, but this is really
but
this is like basic journalism.
Right.
That you're like telling people what the fuck a PFA is and where you'd find it, but basic journalism is not on the menu du jour of CNN.
These synthetic chemicals are used to make food wrapper, sunscreen, nonstick cookware, makeup, smartphones, flame retardant equipment, firefighting foam, hundreds of other products designed to withstand heat, water, grease, stains, and being fucked with.
A Jewish mother moment, y'all don't use nonstick pans. That shit's, even without PFAs, there's so much fucking chemicals in that shit. Just don't use it. Get yourself a cast iron pan. They are awesome. Also, with makeup, always check that shit. You want actually, and you know what? I'm here. Can I?
Yeah, dive right in.
I always use this for if I need something like makeup or something like that. Oh dear.
Yeah, see, this is why we don't let her touch the buttons.
I want to touch the button.
This is why we don't let her.
It's that one. Well, there you go. So if you go to...
For those listening, it's called Environmental Working Group, or EWG.org.
So you can look at, here. So there's the Skin Deep database. There's a tap water database that tells you about tap water in your area. Spoiler alert, nowhere is fucking good. So you just
click on tap water database and it's just a red blinking alert that says don't drink.
Right. So there's EWG verified that you can see that on certain, this is some shit that they have. You can look at the skin, and especially if you have kids, I think that this is really important because obviously their immune systems can't handle as much as yours or mine can. And then they've got the Skin Deep database that shows that you can look up, you can look up body oil.
90,000 products they've analyzed.
Yeah. Oh, it didn't share that screen. Oh, well. But basically, you can just look up, body oil, or you can look up foundation or something like that. Or cleaning spray. And I think, honestly, though, for cleaning spray, just use vinegar and throw some lavender in there or something. Well, not lavender. You fucking hate lavender, but citrus. I don't know.
Lavender!
So that, if your kid gets into it, the worst that happens is they get grossed out by drinking vinegar and citrus, as opposed to bleach. So yeah. Anyway.
So maybe this is part of the reason that it seems that everyone I think I've ever known has had some form of cancer at some point. Mm-hmm. If they live to 60, I mean, honestly, how many people do you know that have lived to 60 and not had some kind of cancer?
Well, and it's interesting with to answer your question, not many.
You have to face the microphone at some point.
There was a little bump on my leg, and I thought it might be a tick.
This is a former audio tech. She's speaking into her armpit.
Okay.
Let me explain how microphones work.
All right.
You need to have them in front of the mouth.
Let me explain how comedy works. Okay. So this was actually something that my oncologist told me when I had cancer in Los Angeles. She said, I really can't tell you for sure that, because I asked her, I was like, what the fuck? This is insane. I'm in my, late 20s. And she said that I really can't rule out environmental factors.
Los Angeles actually is, it's a carcinogen.
It is just a giant carcinogen.
Los Angeles is a giant carcinogen.
Yeah. So, and this is, I was very privileged growing up. I had good food, good water. I had a yard to run around in that wasn't sprayed with fucking Roundup or whatever. So this is.
Oh, here, Adrian, assuming he's correct, says the cancer rates have gone from 1 in 8 to 1 in 2. Wow.
I do know that particularly in some communities, the cancer rate is like even above that. For instance, there are some areas in West Virginia where in one town in West Virginia, for instance, 98% of the people who live there developed gallbladder cancer because of the poisoned water. So this shit is, I mean, especially if you're in certain areas, you don't have a fucking snowball's chance in hell.
To get in, you guys who follow my stuff know that I like to talk about the layers of reality. So you kind of have surface layer, which is like talking about this EPA regulation. Then you get down to another level, which is the fact that the corporations own our states. They can gut these regulations, allow them to do whatever the fuck they want. You get down another level, you get that capitalism is about profit over all else. So it doesn't matter if people are getting cancer, that it's short-term profit. If it's profitable to sell makeup or sell lead paint that is fucking making kids not be able to do their multiplication tables, doesn't matter. It's good for profit. End of story. So there's layer 3. But another layer of this reality is that cancer and sickness in America, basically America's healthcare system, is it is a class enforcing system. Was it 50%? No, I think it was higher than that, but it's definitely over 50%. I can't remember the exact number. 50% of everyone who gets cancer, and just like that person said, it's now 1 in 2, or roughly 1 in 2. 50% lose their entire savings. All their savings wiped out by the time they're in, and that's if they survive.
I'm surprised it's that low, to be honest.
Yeah, well, and so that goes for have insurance, don't have insurance, whatever. 50% lose all of their savings. So that takes people that were maybe middle class or whatever and brings them back down to kind of struggling, poor, lower middle class, whatever, no savings left. And so it's kind of a class enforcing system, our healthcare system. It takes people that may have been getting towards becoming rich or wealthy or upper middle class and knocks them back down to being poor because you lose your entire savings trying to fight illness. So,
yeah, and I mean, truly in the U.S., these are like 2016 numbers or so. 80% of people who went bankrupt due to medical bills had insurance. So it's like, Then why the fuck do I have insurance, right? And we saw this during COVID too. People would become hospitalized. They had insurance, and then you get a bill for like 80 grand, and it's like, yeah, who the fuck in the U.S. has the ability to pay 80 grand worth of fucking hospital bills? And
so many of those, it's the number one cause of bankruptcy. And again, this is people with insurance half the time.
Yeah.
These are people like, because your insurance says, yeah, we'll cover whatever, 20,000 and you owe 100,000. It's fucking insane. It's insanity. And every other developed country doesn't deal with this shit, doesn't act like this is normal.
I do remember somebody that I worked with that was doing this amazing photography of homeless people, and really humanizing them, as opposed to like every picture you see of a homeless person, they look like destitute, but this was really showing them in a different light, literally. And one of the things one of the guys said to him was, you and anybody else watching this are really only one emergency away from being in my position.
Right.
And think about it. I mean, for the vast majority of Americans, that is the truth. You are one emergency away, maybe two if you've got a really stacked savings, but who the fuck does? One emergency away from becoming homeless.
All right, let's squeeze in one more story before we do the rest of the live stream at rumble.com/Lee Camp. That's where the rest of it will be.
That was a high note to leave on, by the way.
Do we have high notes here? I thought we'd cut out high notes from the
but they're
program.
Usually not that personal. Like, hey, just so you know that how fucked you are. You might want to walk around in a bubble because you're one emergency away from being homeless.
Well, glasses half full. Tents are fun. You cannot deny a lot of good times are had in tents. You know, they have the little zippy door. You'd be like, zip, zip. It's a lot of fun. And, you know, it's just so cozy in there, right? Like, especially if you're in there with someone you like, then it's very cozy in a tent. So there you go. Was that better?
Effort.
Was that a better way to end it?
Valiant effort.
Okay, so let's see. Let's do one. That was going to take us a little longer. Let's just squeeze this one in here because we do talk about this topic a fair amount, but this is the amount of money that Congress wants to add on top of fucking Biden's insane, and it's Biden's, it's Trump's, it's Obama's, it doesn't fucking matter, insane military budget. Totally catastrophic, insane military budget.
Again, we've covered this before too, that they never ask for more. Congress never says you asked for too little for housing or for education. We're gonna get you more. It's only ever for military that they're like, right. We don't think you asked for enough, so we're gonna give you more.
When was the last time the president was like, we need some money to clean up this river, and Congress was like, you know what? Take $1 billion extra. Just take $1 billion extra. Why not? Why not? And what are you saving it for?
And 45 billion. Like these are numbers I can't even. I mean, we talk about this too, that you can't even fucking. You know, it's like wrapping your head around the size of like a black hole. It's like, which is literally what the DoD is. But it's like I don't understand $45 billion. And I know that IPS. And that's
the extra. That's the
on
top.
Extra.
The Pentagon's budget is roughly $1 trillion a year. Because they tell you it's 780 billion or something, but if you add black budget, it's about $1 trillion, and then you have 21 trillion unaccounted for over the past 20 years. So there you go.
But yeah, I mean, and IPS and other organizations do this too. Does a great job of breaking this shit down.
Institute for Policy Studies.
Sorry. Yes, I need to be better at that. I hate when people say acronyms that I don't understand.
Injected penis serum.
Ew.
That's not what IPS stands for?
Oh, I don't even have one, and that sounds painful. Okay.
A serum?
A penis?
It was a joke.
Okay. Anyway, getting back to this point that I'm trying to make, $45 billion could fund, instead of adding it to the black hole that is the DoD, could fund 5.35 million public housing units, which if y'all are not familiar, the public housing in the U.S. is laughably awful. I've written about it before, and it's just like there are so many people waiting to access public housing. There are so many people who live in public housing that's literally falling down around them. Some places that don't even have like proper electricity or heated water. So literally $45 billion for 1 year could fund 5.35 million public housing units, or at least renovate the ones that exist.
Quick reminder, there's also 17 million empty housing units in the United States. 17 million. There's only 15 million people facing eviction right now through the pandemic, and there's 17 million empty housing units.
And roughly like 500, well, now it's more, but before the pandemic,
homeless.
There were 600,000 homeless, and now it's definitely more than that. But even still, it's not 17 million. So it could also fund 261,000 clean energy jobs. Wind power for 113.7 million homes, which you pointed out, are there even that many?
Well, no, which I pointed out, like, how many homes could there be in America? Like, it can't be more than 200 million. We only have 330 million people, and most people live with families. So, like, how many homes could there be?
And the empty homes.
And the empty homes, yeah. And this would fund the wind power for 113 million homes, and this is just the extra thrown to the Pentagon.
Right.
Extra.
Like
this is the little fucking extra piece of cake on the side of your plate. That's what this is. This is not the meal.
Oh no, not even. This is like the crumb that you accidentally like dropped on off your table. And also low-income healthcare for 15.6 million children. There you go with those goddamn kids again. You know, it's like, we want to make sure that people have. We want to make sure that people have to. I'm pontificating while looking out into off into the distance. You know?
I feel like for the podcast, people are gonna think as you pontificate, you slowly walk off. You just like walk down a hall.
You know what, y'all? Peace. I gotta pontificate this way. Well, I wish it could follow me. You know what the problem is? I'm used to a handheld. You know what I'm gonna do?
Oh no! Oh, this could only go bad.
Okay, so
now everyone is sitting in their cars, being like, "Jesus, she just got loud."
Follow me on a little story time, folks. See, now I lost my train of thought.
I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. The kids. Yeah, so I was talking about the kids. So we want to make sure in this country that people are forced to have the children. And then we want to make sure that those children die slowly and painfully. Either they starve to death, they die slowly of cancer due to lead in the water or PFAs or some other fucking poison that we don't even know about yet. They get all jacked up from the various hormones in the water. They can't breathe properly because of the dirty air. Their food is poisoned. It has no fucking nutrients. And they have no fucking health care because we needed to ensure that the Pentagon got $45 billion extra because America. Now I'm done. I'm going to put this back down. See how nice that was?
You just Kanye Wested this podcast, this live stream.
I didn't walk up to the Beyonce of the situation. Was it Beyonce?
Taylor Swift.
Whatever. Oh, I completely mistook that in my brain. Anyway.
Yeah, no, it was an even better
to walk up to Beyonce. I bet.
Well, no, he ripped the microphone out of Taylor Swift's hand, said, "I'm going to let you finish in a minute," and then said Beyonce had the best video of the year and Taylor Swift should not have won the award, basically.
Oh.
So he was saying, this is bullshit that little white lady gets the award. But anyway, it was like the Will Smith slap pre-Will Smith. Jumping on stage, taking a dump on the ceremony. Anyway.
We digress.
We digress.
I think that was...
I have no problem with everything you say. You're fucking brilliant. It's just sometimes one needs to face the microphone. I don't think I'm crazy
but
here.
That's why I wanted to take the microphone with me
on a journey. On a journey.
That's all I'm saying.
I'd like to take the folks at home on a little walk with me. All right. Speaking of that, speaking on a little walk, I would like for all of you, and I can see there's still a lot of you on YouTube, on Facebook, to take a little walk with us. We're going to rumble.com/LeeCamp. rumble.com/LeeCamp. And that is where this will continue. We'll continue for another 20 minutes or more. And it's free to go there, free to comment. And that is where the rest of this is. I've been forced to do this because YouTube deleted my other YouTube page, which had 250,000 followers, 8 years of work, over 1,000 videos, all banned globally. So I'm not making that mistake again. So I'm at rumble.com/LeeCamp. Please join us.
Come hang out
over there.
I will use the microphone.
And Eleanor promises going forward, she will speak into the microphone. All right. While I focus on this, can you start talking about the oil and coal story?
Well, I can start talking about the coal story. I believe you have the oil story up on your device.
Okay.
But either way.